been thinking a lot about 2016 recently, when we did this the last time. In 2016, I had just started at Fourth Universalist that fall, and I think back and I think about how much has changed, how much we all have changed. There was nothing that election week planned at Fourth Universalist outside of a Sunday service beforehand where I talked about the election. There was no chances to check in or debrief on election day or the day after. Back then in 2016, there was no justice team to send out 125,000 postcards urging people to register, or who made thousands of phone calls, or formed a broad interfaith coalition to protect democracy. For my part, I wasn't even planning to be in the pulpit the week after the election. So unconcerned was I of the results of the election. I'm embarrassed even to admit that. How could I possibly think that I shouldn't be there? We shouldn't make sure we have a good service the week after the election. But to my knowledge, though no one thought then that I was being terribly negligent to not have planned anything the week of, that I hadn't planned to be around the week Sunday after, I wasn't terribly negligent or clueless, and there's, of course, no reason to disagree with that in the chat. But I should have known better. I know that now. Not only because we were surprised by the results 4 years ago, but because of how much elections matter. We are not the same people we were 4 years ago. We are wiser, we are more knowledgeable, more engaged, and less naive. This change comes with a price. So many of us are feeling anxiety and fear right now. The stress of waiting for Tuesday, the need for reassurance and that everything is going to be okay. And I definitely feel that too. I think it helps me to realize that this stress that we're feeling is paradoxically a good thing. It's a sign of emotional and spiritual health. It means that our nervous systems recognize something as a real and true threat. We are not dulled or disengaged or ignorant. If we are an immigrant or a person of color, if we are queer or a woman, we may legitimately feel fear for our safety. So this election is not just about two candidates. Our anxiety is warning us that we are in danger, like the heat our bodies feel when we get too close to a campfire. Too often, religion tries to falsely wish away anxiety and stress. It's seen as like a spiritual failing, or at least something we should overcome. We are told that we need to stay in the present. Don't worry about things you can't control. We are told we should practice non-attachment. But our election anxiety, I believe, shows us that we are becoming spiritually awake. It is wise to sense the rising heat in a burning room, because it makes us respond and seek safety. But unlike a burning room with an election, there isn't anywhere to escape. We have to just put out the fire. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of this healthy anxiety when he spoke about being proud to be maladjusted to our society. It's what Sean's saying about being blessed unrest, allowing our discomfort not to overwhelm us, but to spur us into action. In this moment, it is numbness and apathy that is the real spiritual crisis, because they lead ultimately to far deeper suffering. Now, there is a different congregation out there that needs to be cajoled into voting, convinced of its civic responsibility. That could be a sermon that I give. But it is not for you. It is one of the reasons why I am proud to be your minister. You know that Unitarian Universalists believe in democracy. You know that voting is not just about electing people into office, but a ritual we practice. A ritual that symbolizes that every person matters, that no one in this country is better than anyone else, that we all deserve a voice. We vote not because we think that our one vote can change the world, but because we believe that together we can. And if we lose that belief, if we lose that ritual, we risk losing everything else that we love. So today I want to share a few words of reassurance that have helped me lessen the anxiety that I feel, and then a few words about what happens next. First, words of reassurance. When you're watching the election results come back on Tuesday night, as you feel nervous, no matter what is happening, I know I will feel nervous. Remember that across the country, remember that everyone in this congregation, people that you love, are watching too. They are feeling what you are feeling. Even folks who are on the different political aisle, other side of that than you are not alone in feeling that. Sometimes when I despair about the world, it helps me to go through a list of people in my mind who are all in this world with me, who know I care, that they care like me, who will still be there like me the next day. People that I know really well sometimes, and sometimes people that I just met, or people I knew a long time ago. That they are still there, and they too care about the state of the world. Remember also that your value and that your worth and that your goodness as a person does not depend on the result of this election. It does not depend on what the majority of this country says or what the Electoral College says. You are a good person even if your side does not win, even if the election is stolen. As Mother Teresa once said, we are called not to be successful, but to be faithful. You matter, even if you are not successful. And you are matter also, and you will continue to matter, even if the other side denies your humanity. And we will do at this congregation everything we can do to make sure that you are safe, your rights are protected, and that your human dignity is clear. Remember that this election is not 2016. Remember that there are real data-driven reasons why it is not 2016. There are far fewer undecided voters this year, and they appear to be leaning in a different direction than 4 years ago. Remember that polling has improved as evidenced by the accuracy of the midterms. Remember that Biden is far more popular than Clinton ever was. His lead is far more significant. Don't let yourself think that these elections are the same. It is not the same race. Finally, take comfort that our goal of a just society remains the same. The end goal of all this work of this congregation, the mission of Unitarian Universalism, does not change depending on who wins this election. Neither candidate will lead us to any promised land. Neither candidate will solve the world's problems. Our goal is liberation for all, and that will not happen on Wednesday, no matter what happens. So, you can despair at that thought, or you can take comfort in knowing that on a practical level, our local work is not going to be that different in the long run. We know that there will still be violence against Black and brown Americans by police. We know that sea levels will continue to rise and fake news and conspiracy theories are not going away. We know that millions will still be without quality health care and thousands will die of coronavirus. And we have a tremendously important local election next year in November that we need to start working on. Our work will be the same liberation. Now here's what happens next. Now, there's a real likelihood that this election will be contested, that there will be an intentional effort, more than there already has been, to keep votes from being counted, that politicians and political parties will try to cheat and bully their way to power, rather than abide by the rule of law. And this is not far-fetched. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is what has already been happening. We see it in places like Wisconsin, where absentee ballots are not going to be counted after Election Day, thanks to the Supreme Court. We see it in Texas, where the governor has successfully limited the number of ballot boxes to one per county and is trying to now invalidate drive-in voting. We see it in voting locations that have been systematically closed in neighborhoods of color, and how it takes so much longer for Black and brown Americans to vote. Now, none of this is by accident. It is by design. It is undemocratic, it is racist, and it is voter suppression. If you do not believe that this will be used as after Election Day or on Election Day to continue, then that is not real. It is not true. Our president has even hedged on a peaceful transition of power. He has shown no concerns for violating norms or inflaming violence. It is logical to assume that if faced with the very loss of power, he will resist leaving. They say when someone tells you who they are, believe them. So we have to be prepared for it to get messy fast. Most activists out there across this country believe there are going to be unrest and violence no matter what happens. There are reports on the news this morning that Macy's, right here in New York, is boarding up all of their major store in anticipation of looting for this election. And of course, it'll be far worse if there is an attempt to undermine legitimate results. Now, it's possible that everything will be fine. But I think it's better safe to be sorry. If we are being paranoid, then at least we worry a bit and then things are fine. But if we are right and do nothing, we risk losing our democracy. The Fourth Universalist is preparing in several ways, informed by the wisdom of those who have studied power grabs in other countries and resisted them successfully. We have an advantage because even though the threat of massive voter suppression is real, we can also see it coming, and preparation does a tremendous amount. The first thing that we must be prepared to do is take to the streets, to rally peacefully and nonviolently, and that is also important and key. And any effort to stop a power grab must appeal to the center in order to consolidate support against illegitimate power. Not only do we Unitarian Universalists believe in peace generally, we're peace-loving people, but in this case specifically, we have to appear to be legitimate and leverage the legitimacy of our congregation, of churches, to make it clear that democracy is legitimate, must be legitimate, rather than those who are trying to redefine what that means. Secondly, we must be prepared to redefine what it means to be a sanctuary congregation. Before, it meant to safe harbor for undocumented people. We welcomed a family into our congregation and said, ICE, you could not come in here, you could not deport these Americans. But in times of unrest and uprising, if there is a power grab, if there is massive voter suppression, sanctuary must mean more than that. It must mean a place where all people can come and be safe. A place where people can come and get water if they've been on the streets. A place people can come and be treated by medics if they've been sprayed by pepper spray. A place people can come to use the bathrooms. Where they can come and be safe from arrest if they have been out on the streets being brave. We have to be that kind of sanctuary if need be. Third, we will pressure our elected officials to publicly affirm that every vote needs to be counted. That is what the mantra will need to be, every vote counted. Did you know that 12 governors across the country publicly affirmed this principle of every vote being counted, and ours in New York was not one of them? Did you know that Cuomo came out and said that we might not have enough money to ensure that this election in New York State is fair? We seem to have enough money not to raise taxes on the rich. Or whenever there's a war, we seem to find money. We need to make it clear to our elected officials that this kind of waffling and timidity is unacceptable, especially if there is a power grab. Finally, in last resort, if a power grab is real, we will need to shut things down, to make it clear that this country cannot continue as normal if there will be an illegitimate power grab. The cost of supporting an illegitimate government is that the country will not function as normal. At Fourth Universalist, I hope we don't have to do any of this. I don't want us to have to worry about that on Tuesday night or Wednesday or in the weeks to come, because it's scary stuff. It's something that most of us have never seen in our lifetime. But these are unprecedented times. If we do see things like this, it is best for us to be prepared, at least emotionally, to be ready to do what we have to do. If it doesn't come to it, then great. We can focus on all the other work that we have to do to make this country better. But if we do, rest assured that Fourth Universalists will be here to do it, and we'll be ready. We'll talk more about what that looks like specifically when we talk about our announcement at the end, and we'll be ready to go. Now, I like having plans, and we have one. I hope that we can sigh a big sigh of relief, that our democracy has survived and we can work on strengthening it. But if we have to, we will follow the plan and we will do it together. I don't know what November 3rd will look like, or the day after. The uncertainty makes this really hard. But I hope you join with me in some peace of mind, and knowing that we have done what we could so far, that there is comfort in knowing that we have each other, all of us here, and the strength of our shared convictions, and that we have the courage and knowing that we will be ready for whatever comes next. So friends, good luck this week. Join us for one of the many things that will be happening this week at Fourth Universalist. Be kind to yourself. Treat yourself with all the love that you need. And we pray that love and justice will win out. Amen.